Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOonline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. You know, one question I ask every guest on Everyday Martial Artist is about their favorite martial arts book. And there's never been one quite like Martial Theory by Steve Perlman, described as the art of war for the martial arts. Martial Theory helps any martial artist or instructor take their understanding and teaching to the next level. And at martialtheoryU.com, you'll find a global community with instructor groups, Q&A with Steve, live events, and demonstrations to help you apply martial theory directly to your training. It's not just a book, it's a movement. Find Martial Theory on Amazon, and when you join martialtheoryU.com, use discount code EverydayMA for 20% off. That's under $20 a month for life. That's martialtheoryU.com, code EverydayMA. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette, and as we do every week, we're joined by a brand new guest talking about their life and their journey throughout the world of martial arts. Today's guest has dedicated much of his life to preserving and teaching traditional Japanese martial arts, following a path that took him from rural Minnesota to the training halls of Japan and back again. What began as an interest in martial arts while growing up in Hawley, Minnesota, eventually led him halfway around the world, where he spent 11 years living and working in Japan while immersing himself in the country's culture and martial traditions. During that time, he trained extensively in Kendo and Iaido under respected Japanese instructors, overcoming language barriers and embracing discipline, patience, and attention to detail required to study arts passed down through generations. Along the way, he earned a fourth-degree black belt and developed a deep appreciation not only for Japanese swordsmanship, but also for the traditions and values that surround it. After returning to the United States, he made it his mission to share those arts with others, opening a dojo in Moorhead and building a community of students dedicated to the study of Kendo, Iaido, and Jodo. That community has continued to grow, culminating in the opening of a dedicated dojo in West Fargo, giving practitioners of Japanese sword arts a permanent home and creating what is believed to be the only school of its kind in the region, focused exclusively on traditional Japanese weapons training. Please welcome the founder and chief instructor of Agassiz Dojo, Mr. Bradley Anderson. How you doing today, Bradley?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, thank you. Like I said, I know I told you in the intro, we met each other like 15 years ago. Like I said, obviously you don't remember that, but I do.
That's crazy. Yeah.
It was my first time actually seeing a legitimate Japanese sword demonstration. I was very impressed with it. And at the time I was actually I might have actually talked to you about this back then, but at the time I was trying to launch a weekly martial arts radio show. Because I think it was around like 2010, 2011. I was working at WDY Radio and pitched the idea of a show to them, and they would not let me do it. And when I decided to do the podcast about, started working on it about 6 years ago, you were on my list. I'm like, I got to get Bradley on the show. So I finally was able to connect with you, and I'm glad we're taking the time to do this.
Yeah, this is good.
Well, I mentioned in the intro, you from Hawley, Minnesota. It's kind of where you first started martial arts. Well, first of all, just a shout out to Hawley, because that's where my wife's from. So I gotta mention that. My in-laws and stuff still live there. So, but what I want to know is how that started. Where did that first interest in martial arts come from? Kind of what kicked off, that spark that kicked off your martial arts journey?
Well, you got to remember, I grew up in the 80s, and so there were a lot of like ninja movies and stuff like that came out too, right? But I don't know if it was like around my freshman year or sophomore year, but I was just like, we need a martial arts school here, and it was too far to travel to Fargo or Detroit Lakes, just to have my parents commit to that. Right. So I started reaching out to some of the local martial arts schools, and it was one who I think his last name was Yoon. He was a Taekwondo, I think it was Red River Taekwondo or whatever was.
That's actually where I train at Red River Taekwondo. Yeah. Grandmaster Yoon. Really?
So, but we ended up getting a guy who was coming from Detroit Lakes, and I called and I said, hey, what would it take to get a school going in Hawley? And this, again, I'm like, 15 years old. And they're like, well, if you can get a number of people together to come to a demonstration, we'll come come and do a demo. So I'm like, okay. So then I put out the word, like, I don't know if I can't remember, it was so long ago, but like flyers or word of mouth or whatever. But they wanted at least like 25, 35 people there. So I did that, and they came and they did the demo, and then, it was pretty successful. I think we did it at the community center there.
Okay.
And then I was like, what would it take to open a school here? And they said, well, we need to have X number of people sign a commitment to say they would join. And so again, and I think it was like 20 or something like that, or 15 or 20 or 25. I don't know what it was, but again, I went out and did the legwork and got people to sign up, and then they came and they started a school in Hawley, and it was the Hawley Karate School. Even though it was Taekwondo, they call it the Hawley Karate School.
Yep.
And
was that Mike Summers? Do you remember?
Well, I think the guy actually turned out to be kind of a bad dude.
Oh, okay.
Husaric or something like that. He was out of Detroit Lakes, I think. But, the first instructor that came ended up being somebody who maybe was not a good representation of character.
Okay.
Down the road a ways. I don't know. He was fine while he was there with us, but I think it was like Husaric or something. But
okay.
In any case, they came, and after I went to college and whatnot, they were still continuing. I don't know whenever that ended up stopping, but it was kind of neat because I helped found that school, in the sense of like bringing them in and getting it going.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah. So then, yeah.
How long did you train there?
Well, I guess until the end of high school. And then in college, I did more Taekwondo too. And I don't remember if I took more rank tests there, but I ended up being like a purple trim or something, I think was my last rank achieved in Taekwondo. So.
Which college was that at?
That was at Concordia. And
was that Master Yun? I know at one point in the 80s, Master Yun was teaching at Concordia.
Was he? Yeah, I don't remember who it was. Okay. I don't think we ever got Master Yun himself, but it was one of his black belts,
Nice.
So, yeah. But he might have even been a student of Yun's that was also a Concordia student. So, but I mean, it was somebody that was, local.
Yeah.
But I think for all my tests, I did do in front of Yun, from what I remember, at least the bigger ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
did you ever while you were in Taekwondo, did you ever get involved in tournaments and competition? Was that ever something that interested you?
Yeah, I did a couple of times. That was fun. I remember going to this one tournament, and I don't remember what I was ranked at that time, but these two guys, they were like green, orange belt, kind of in that low middle range. And they get in, the one guy, they bow each other. Guy steps in, like they bow, he's like, start, and then the guy steps in, does a spinning back kick, hits his kid in the chin and knocks him out. It was like literally 2 seconds, bam, and I'm watching that going, holy crap. And I thought he's not going to be able to do that again. Like, because I'm like, anybody who was there was watching the fights, right? So I'm like, his next competitor for sure is going to be watching out for that. And sure enough, like I did watch him on the next one, and the guy was like immediately, he tried the same exact thing. I'm like, that was kind of dumb. But, the guy was like, what are you doing, bro? It was just kind of like, he just kind of steps back and knocks it down, and, and then they fought. But I don't remember what ended up happening after that, but it was impressive to say, like, wow, he timed it, and it was just super fast and just smack right on the chin, and that guy just went down like a pile of bricks.
So did you try the same thing?
No. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I did have good kicks because I had long legs for my age, and I was pretty flexible, but no, not me.
Okay. How did you do in your first tournament?
I don't remember exactly. I think I went to a couple of tournaments, and I think I won at least a couple of fights, but it's a tier, right? So I never got into the top 3 in any of them, but yeah.
And
it was still fun.
Did you mainly do sparring? Did you ever compete in weapons? Did you compete in breaking? Did you compete in pattern?
No, it was all sparring because that place that I was studying didn't do any weapons at all. So
really,
not at all.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I suppose a lot of times those like satellite schools don't.
Yeah, we didn't really have that. So,
okay.
We did, the first time I did weapons was with Kyoshi Klein at doing the Ryute karate, and that's when we started doing weapon stuff too.
So you went, through college, you stuck with Taekwondo and stuff. To back up a little bit, now you went through all that trouble, you helped get the school started. Once you jumped into that class in Hawley, what was it about it? What stood out that made you want to keep going? I mean, I realized you wanted to do martial arts, but was it just you were going to go because nothing else was an option, or was there something that really grabbed you and pulled you in and made you want to keep doing it at that time?
Well, it gave me a sense of confidence. It kind of removed some of that victim mentality because I wasn't big, and I wasn't super strong in high school, and there were bullies around. That was back in the days when bullying was a little more prevalent from a physical perspective than from a mental on the phone perspective. Because there were no cell phones back in 1984. So, and except for maybe the big brick ones in your car, but. It was kind of like to have the confidence to stand up for myself. I think there were a couple of guys in it that I was friends with too, and we just enjoyed doing that stuff together. I mean, because like I said, it was the time of the ninja movies and all that stuff too, and it was something that was kind of unique to do, and we enjoyed it, and when you test, like at that time at least, you had to do like breaking and stuff too, so there was always challenges of like, what's the next test going to be and what's that going to look like and how, what I have to do to pass it and all that. But it wasn't really about getting the rank. I never really had aspirations of getting a black belt in Taekwondo, but it was just like, it was something fun to do because I wasn't really good at basketball or football or, the big three sports that were in Hawley at that time. Yeah. So it was kind of like, here's a niche that I can do that I'm actually pretty good at, and I'll just continue to do that. So
do you remember of all the breaks you got to do for tests and stuff, what was your favorite break you got to do?
I remember the hardest one, and I think it might have been for the last test that I took, was you had to jump and do like a jumping front snap kick, but the board was like
above your
head or something.
The chinning kick, as they call it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it was like, that was hard because, you could fall backwards if you don't do it right. And
And some instructors, if you fell, they would not, even if you broke it, they would not pass you. There were some instructors that were very strict back then about that.
Yeah.
Trying to explain that break to people, I tell people, I pictured, Daniel doing the crane kick without having your arms out like a weirdo. It's
pretty much,
literally that
that's
kick.
That's what it is, yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder if that's where they got it from.
I actually I interviewed the guy who actually created the crane kick for the movie. so yeah, it's kind of funny. I explained that kick to him. He's like, huh? You think he was kind of thinking, you guys took my kick, but yeah, who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know, but that's kind of funny. All right, so then college finishes up. You finish up in Taekwondo. Obviously, you decided it had enough of an impact. You wanted to keep doing some type of martial arts. So what was next? What did you go? Did you take a little break?
Well,
did you go looking for something right away?
After college, I moved away and was in a different state for about a year. And then I came back again in 91, I guess it was, and back to Fargo Moorhead and started working at Blue Cross Blue Shield in Fargo.
Okay.
And then I was like, I was still interested in martial arts. I didn't see the practicality of the Taekwondo after that point in time. I was kind of like, the kicks are flashy, and the kata are kind of interesting, but I'm never going to do some of those things that you do in the kata to actually use those in a fight, right? Like it didn't seem practical from a self-defense perspective now that I'd had a little more world experience, I guess, or 2 years worth of world experience. So I started looking around a little bit and found the Yute group, and at that time they were called Hidden Teachings of.
That's right.
I think it was Hidden Teachings of Ryukyu Karate or something like that, and it's been kind of rebranded since then. But found Sensei Klein or Klein Sensei, and then just went and started joining that, and realized really quickly that was the thing. When Go Shinjitsu, the life protection art. That was the real deal. And it made me realize like Taekwondo really after doing it for as long as I did and then doing Yute karate for as long as I did, I realized that, Taekwondo, at least from my perspective, was much more of a sport activity than an actual martial art self-defense kind of thing. Even though that kid did knock out that kid with a, spinning back kick on the first shot, I just didn't see that as being a practical application of martial arts in the real life, you know?
And that really depends on the instructor, if they incorporate more of the self-defense students versus the sport. You know, unfortunately, a lot, because like the Olympics, a lot of the Taekwondo schools lean more towards the sports side.
Very heavy focus on that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So one question then, before you found Mike Klein's school, did you look at a few other schools? I'm trying to think back in like 90. I moved here in 92, but I know when I moved here, I think there was an Aikido instructor at Concordia, but it wasn't really available to the public. I think there was might have been a same thing with NDSU. They had a Shotokan club. There wasn't.
Well, and then Marquardt has his Taekwondo still, and the Red River Taekwondo is still going too. And I think I did pop in and like check it out. You know, like I'm not going to say anything negative about some of the schools in town, but there were schools that were definitely better than others and had better instructors than others.
Yes.
I know the Red River Taekwondo is really good. I can't remember the master's name.
Jim Grimstead.
Jim Grimstead, what a really nice guy. He's a really a great guy.
Super nice. Yep.
Yep. You know, but I just like Taekwondo. I don't know. So I wanted to try something different.
Yeah. You got to feel it. Did someone recommend Mike's school to you, or did you just happen upon it?
You know, I honestly don't remember, but I remember seeing that it was on Main Avenue there, and they had the sign outside of the Red River Dance School was in the same building. You know, and maybe because of going back and forth downtown, I just saw it and popped in. I guess I actually don't remember how I first walked in the doors there. I didn't know anybody, I don't think, at that time that was a member or student there.
I forgot they were in that location when I first met Mike too. Yeah.
He had a really good Main Avenue location there for a while, you know.
It was like right near Mexican Village, if I remember correctly. Like a block. Okay.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. That's cool. And then same type thing. I mean, you said you tried it out, and obviously it was a right fit. So how long did you stay training with Mike?
Until I moved to Japan. So I started there in like 91, worked my way through the different things. Once I got to like, I don't know, it was yellow or green maybe belt, I guess, third belt in. He asked me to join the advanced class, and then he asked me if I wanted to assist in the beginners class. So I started doing that too. So instead of just a 1 hour twice a week, I was getting like 2 hours twice a week, which was fun, you know. And I think I've learned that the great way to reinforce learning is to teach somebody, and that's what I actually have a lot of my beginners do too, that come into my dojo now, is make, you know, last guy in the door has to teach the next guy everything they know. Even if it's just how to hold a sword or something, you know. Okay. Like you spend time with that new guy and you teach them how to do the opening etiquette, you know, the Reiho, or you teach them how to hold their sword, and then we're gonna help tweak it, you know. But that helps two people instead of just one. So
I'm curious, before Mike asked you to do that and like help with the lower class, had the thought of teaching martial arts ever crossed your mind before that?
Not really. No, not really. I mean, because there's so much learning, you know.
Yes.
But yeah, it was good. I mean, you know, and he used me as a guinea pig in both classes. Like he would beat on me, and I asked him to, like, you know, can you do that on me? Because I can't seem to do that technique, especially when you start doing like the joint locks and the nerve strikes and stuff. You know, it's like I'm not getting this, you know. And he's like, well, let me do it, and I'm like, bam, and he hit me, and I'd be like, okay, now I understand how that feels. Now how do I do that? You know, but I used to come home with bruises all over my arms and legs. Like it was just...
I gotta wonder, because the first time I met him, I was just going around exploring other martial arts schools, me and a friend, and we popped in and watched one of his classes. And after class, he came over. This would have been probably 95. And after class, we came over and he started talking to us, and he started telling us about pressure points and stuff. And he had I don't remember who, but he had one of his students come over and he goes, watch this. And he did like this nerve strike in the shoulder. And if I remember, like the person's like left leg went completely numb and they almost fell over.
Yeah.
And we're just like, I wonder if that was you. That would be funny if it was.
I mean, it could be, who knows? Like he used to use me all the time because I was really easy to do technique on. And I mean, it's real, you know, it's just, it's totally real.
Oh yeah. So, I know. Yeah. Because he showed it on me one time. So trust me, I know it's real. Yep. I like it. So then what led, I mean, you said the first time you saw weapons, kind of do you remember the first weapon you got to train with in his school?
So they use the traditional Okinawan weapons, which are usually like traditionally farm implements or tools, because, you know, at that time, Okinawa wasn't allowed to have weapons. And so they couldn't have like swords and knives and stuff like that. But, you know, things that were like kanbo or chizukumbo or bow staff or jo staff or, you know, things like that, that were practical farm implements or tools that you could find anywhere, and that's what we learned. So I think I learned like Shizukan-bo, which are two little kind of like, I don't know, hand-sized sticks. You kind of with a little leather thing around them, so they kind of sit in the palm of your hand, and you can strike with those or block with those.
Yep. Okay.
And you get hit with that on your wrist, it kills.
Yeah.
But then they're also like a point, so you stick that in, and that's your point for point strikes, right? But so I think that was one of the first ones we did. Every summer they would do a new weapon. So it was like Tombo. I think I did Tombo, which is like 2 sticks. I did Joe. I did Bo. Did Sai. I can't remember what else. We might have even done Nunchaku, which is completely different than what you see in like the movies,
Yeah.
But I mean, so like I said, every summer we did one.
Okay.
So it was fun.
And then did you get involved in is it Bogu? Did you get to do that at all?
Bogu Kumite? Yeah. That's an extreme way of fighting. It is. Yeah. I mean, Kyoshi I could never do well against him because he was just so fast and just devastating. Like he'd do a turning side kick and you'd be like against the wall, or he'd do one of these overhand, almost like a, barn. I don't know what they call them, but almost like a bar fight. And he would come in and just smack you. And even though you're wearing armor, I mean, it just translates into your jaw and in your head. And,
because you're wearing like
you feel
kendo, like a kendo headgear. And
it's very similar,
full boxing gloves, and just beat the crap out of each other. First time I saw it, there was about a 4 or 5 year period where Master Jim Grimstead and Mike Klein teamed up when Master Jim had his Fargo Open tournament, and we actually had a Bogu division for like 5 years. Yeah, and I was so sad when they quit doing it. But man, because I remember my friend Brad from Taekwondo, God, big Brad. He was had so much power, but I don't think he realized his own power. He actually knocked a guy out in the Bogu event.
You can. I mean, it's, even though you're wearing that protective gear, even the chest gear had like little bamboo slats in it and stuff too, so it absorbs some of the strike. But yeah, it was a whole new element to the martial art, because very traditional Okinawan style, I guess, and you try to kick, but man, if you're not wearing toe protectors like boots and stuff, kicking that headgear was damaging to your feet, and stuff too, because there's like those metal slats in there, and it was just, but it was fun. Yeah. I mean, I remember getting beat quite a bit, and there were some big, strong guys that came in that were just big, strong guys, and you try not to get hit, but you'd still get hit sometimes. And I remember getting really angry one time. I'm like, I got to stop because I'm starting to lose my temper. Nice. And Mike's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. Not doing well. I'm kind of losing my mind here. I'm just going to stop right now because this is not helping me. I got to collect my thoughts because he just beat my ass so bad.
That's awesome. And I only got to do that maybe a handful of times. When they added it to the Fargo Open, I know Master Jim bought some of the gear so we could practice like on weekends and stuff. And me and my buddy Damien used to go in there and suit up and beat the crap out of each other. But I never did it in the tournament. I was never a big competition guy. But talk about a good way to work up a sweat, though.
Oh yeah, it's total cardio. Yeah, especially if you kick. I mean, if you're just boxing, then it's like kind of just that. But you start throwing in some kicks and stuff too, and you got to learn how to be balanced. You got to learn how to see in something that you have zero peripheral vision in, too. And it's a different element. So
nice. So was it Mike's school where you first saw sword?
No, he didn't. That's kind of the even though Taika Oyata, the founder of the system, did know some sword stuff, he didn't incorporate that into his regular curriculum. Okay. I think he had 1 or 2 students who actually did know some of the sword kata that he had taught them, and I asked him about it later on at some of the seminars where he would come to Fargo, or I met him, and we talked a little bit about it after I came back from Japan, because I met him again after that, but yeah, it was different. So I had never had experience with sword in the U.S. until after I came back.
What led to the decision to go to Japan?
A couple of things, I guess. Doing the karate did kind of pique my interest towards more of the cultural and just the martial side of things. Okay. I really loved doing it, and I think that Mike was maybe grooming me to lead his school someday. Mm-hmm. which, ended up going to Kevin because I just wasn't here.
Yeah.
But and that's a great home for it too, because Kevin is an amazing practitioner. But I think it was that. I think it was also like, hey, I've been working at 5 years at Blue Cross, and I was like, I had a house, I had a car. I was like kind of just settled.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't, I was only like 20, I don't know, 26, 28, whatever it was. And was like, is this where I'm going to be? Is this what I'm going to do? And I mean, I didn't have really a serious girlfriend or anything. And I was just kind of, if I'm going to do something nuts, like this is probably the time of my life when I should do that. And so I was like, yep, I'm going to do something different. I'm not bored, but I'm also not completely invested in any one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so the timing was right. And I was kind of feeling a little adventurous, and a lot of people thought I was kind of nuts for just doing it, but I did. So.
Okay. And did you have a job lined up before you left, or did you just...
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It would have been really hard because you're only allowed 90 days on a tourist visa in Japan. And if you do work in Japan, you can't be in Japan and get a visa. You have to leave the country. So you could interview while you're there and then leave the country, get the visa, come back in, but go to Hong Kong or something, but no. So I interviewed for the JET program, but I missed that one by timing wise, I guess. So then the next choice is doing one of the Eikaiwas there, which is one of the multitudes of language schools that you see at the train stations and stuff. And so I interviewed there with a company called Eon, and that's where I got hired from. And no less than 6 times during the interview process. And then before they offer you a contract, they say, are you sure you can live in Japan for 1 year and finish this contract? Because we're going to give you a 1-year contract, but are you sure? It's like, yeah, I'm sure. Just sign me up, maybe.
Nice. And how long after you got there before you went to look for a martial arts school?
Oh, I started looking right away.
Okay.
I was like, I want to, that was one of my targets. It was kind of funny because before I left, I was talking to, rewind a little bit. So before I left, I had finished almost 5 years with my client and Taika, doing Jiu-Jitsu karate. And I was, to test for black belt, you had to go down to Kansas to the summer camp. But Taika was coming up for a seminar in April. And so we asked for special permission to do a testing, and it was the first time that he ever did it outside of summer camp.
Okay. So
he allowed me to test. So I actually tested and then passed my Shodan right before I left. And that was kind of nice. So, yeah. So, and when I was talking to him there, I said, yeah, I'm planning to move to Japan, da-da-da-da-da. He's like, you study anything, don't study karate. So you didn't really want me to study any karate, to mess up what I knew, and what I had been studying with them for 5 years. You're like, you study judo, okay. You study, iaido or kendo, okay. Don't study karate. He told me that. I'm like, yeah, that's not my plan.
Okay.
Because I watched Kyokushin karate and some of those other ones, and they just beat the crap out of each other. I was like, no, I have no interest in that.
Nice.
So, yeah. So that's what I did then, is I had the goal to study the sword and learn more about that. And I wanted to study Iaido first, but, and I helped some of the Japanese staff that worked at the school where I was at, helped me try to find an Iaido school. And there was really nothing that we could find, just looking in the yellow pages, and because the internet wasn't anything at that point in time. And, so it's kind of like, does anybody know a place where you can study martial arts? And, there's the Budokan, but they didn't have any Iaido people there, and I went there, and they did teach Kendo, so that's where I started with Kendo.
Oh, okay. How long did you do Kendo before you picked up other arts? Yeah,
so I lived in Toyama, which is north central Japan, for about 1.5 years, and I was doing Kendo the whole time there. I was going 2 to 4 times a week.
Wow.
In the mornings. And Toyama gets snow, and the Budokan has no heat or air conditioning. It's just a big hall with windows that were open year round.
Wow.
So, I remember doing Kendo, and I could see the sweat coming off of my uniform and my breath at the same time, because I had ridden to the Budokan on my bike through the snow.
Wow.
So it's kind of it's a little cold today. But yeah, I was there for 1.5 years. And then when I moved to South Central Japan in Numazu, I found a Kendo group there really quickly. And that's where I met my Iaido sensei as well, because he was doing both. So
And then did you keep training in both the whole time you were there, or did you focus?
No, my back started to get bad. Like I found out later that I could solve it through chiropractic. And I tried what do you call it?
Acupressure, acupuncture?
Yeah, acupuncture.
Okay.
Like I tried acupuncture and some different types of massage while I was there. But basically, I was getting like pinched nerves in my butt, kind of that went up to my back, and so I couldn't like hardly walk or lift my leg. And then the chiropractic sort of solved that. But it was really irritated by kendo, and so I just I can't do kendo anymore. Okay. I need something that's softer. And luckily while I was doing kendo, I met Takeda Sensei, who became my Iaido Sensei, and he's like, well, we do Iaido, and you'd probably be okay with that, And so had I known, because you sit and say that a lot in Iai, and that really sort of loosened up my hips too. So probably had I started doing Iai, I probably would have loosened up my hips enough to continue kendo, but I just sort of switched gears at that point.
Okay. And did you stay with that same instructor the rest of your time you were in Japan?
Yeah, Takeda Sensei became my sensei, and that's who I studied under the whole time I was there.
Nice.
I did manage to get my Shodan in kendo before I actually moved to Shizuoka.
Okay.
Into Numazu. I tested with a bunch of high school kids. It's just because I was available at the same time that they were, and my sensei, he was funny. He smoked like a chimney. He's like this short little dude who was just smoking all the time, and it was man to man that he taught me. And so he'd bring in high school kids once in a while to do keiko with me, or old ladies, and just whoever was around, right? And because I was only able to go in basically on the weekends or in the mornings because I worked from noon. So it was whoever was available and come in and beat on each other and do keiko because, just him, I was kind of getting his habits and things. So he wanted to expand my horizons a little bit.
Nice.
But yeah, when I tested both times for my EQ and my Shodan, I tested against a bunch of high school kids.
Okay.
So that was kind of fun.
That's actually kind of cool. So nice.
Yeah.
Kind of just for a lot of my listeners maybe who aren't familiar with Iaido, is it kind of explain the differences between that and kendo? They're both sword arts, but they are very different.
Sure. So, and the pronunciation is Iaido. So
sorry.
Iaido. Yeah. Yeah. No, you're okay. It's spelled one way, and people always mispronounce it. So no worries there. But kendo is, so when you look at the kanji, ken is sword, right? And so it's way of the sword. And Iaido is a different kanji set for that. And so loosely, I would say kendo is Japanese fencing, and Iaido is Japanese swordsmanship.
Okay.
So kendo, you wear the armor, you wear gloves, you wear helmet or a headpiece, and you wear chest piece. And you try to use a bamboo sword called a shinai, which is flexible and light, and you can hit, with, and you try to score points on the head, the wrist, the throat, or the chest. And that's it. And so, there are kata and kendo, which are part of the testing and stuff too, but it's not part of the actual keiko. But Iaido is patterns, and there's multiple styles of Iaido. There's a whole bunch of old Koryu styles that you can study from different schools of swordsmanship, and that's historical, some emperor or some famous, shogun or samurai or whatever studied under this style, and some other ones studied under this style. There's Musashi's, Niten Ichiryu or Niten Hoho or whatever. Where he did two-handed sword, right? So that's a style. And what I do is Muso Shinenryu, and that's a style. But Iaido is basically doing a set of movements against imaginary multiple or single opponents. And, you're drawing a sword from a scabbard, you're cutting, you're shaking the blood off, and then you're putting the sword away. And so those are the four elements that you find in every Iaido kata.
Okay.
Yep. So that's kind of the difference. Is you've got one where the person's in the room trying to, score points against you, and one's where you're just imagining people and you're doing patterns.
And then does it have a typical belt ranking system, or is it different?
Yeah, it's all follows the Japan Kendo Federation or the International Kendo Federation. So,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, although the U.S. is a little different, but as an adult in Japan, the first test that you take is your EQ, which is, the one level below Shodan, right? So, but here in the U.S., they've gone down to like fourth kyu for some reason.
Oh, okay.
And it's something that I necessarily don't agree with. Like, I mean, kind of, they place a different emphasis on what a shodan means here in the U.S. It seems like they elevate it much more than the Japanese did, at least when I was there, you know, in the 80s or in the 90s, I guess. Shodan in Japan was like, oh, you did the patterns and you didn't drop your sword, kind of thing, you know, like, or you didn't cut anybody, or you didn't, you know, do the wrong kata or something like that.
Yeah.
And here it's like, seems like we elevate it so much. And the problem is that the difference is, like, in Japan, the country's the size of California. So like you can find places to test really closely. But in the US, we're so huge. And to go and test somewhere, you're probably going to spend a fair amount of money if you're in an area that doesn't have a big school nearby with people who can be judges, right? So here in Fargo, North Dakota, the closest place to test is going to be like Chicago, or then you got to hop over to the East or West Coast or Texas. That's $1,000 trip minimum. Yeah. And to spend $1,000 to get a yonkyu makes 0 sense to me. Yeah. Because then you got to spend another $1,000 in another 6 months or, you know, a year to go get the next kyu and the next kyu and the next kyu. Wow. So you're spending like $8,000 just to get a shodan, and that doesn't make any sense to me.
Wow. And what rank did you get to before you moved back?
I was Yondan.
Okay.
So, fourth dan. So what was funny was when I went in to test for my EQ, my very first test, they're like, so will you also be testing for shodan today? I'm like, is that a thing? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Really?
I'm like, I didn't put in an application for that. And they're like, oh, well, sorry, then you'll have to come back in, 6 months or a year and test again. So I'm like, okay.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different mentality, and you can't even be an instructor until you're like at least fourth dan or fifth dan, like they don't want people teaching until you're like this, and maybe even sixth dan. And, so it's a really different mentality than the US when it comes to what a dan actually means, I think.
Okay. At
least at that time. I think they have sort of raised things up to be a little more internationally flat now. But at that time, it was a much different thing. Like they didn't even really like look at you until you were sandan anyways. It's like, oh, somebody else can teach that guy because he's only, been here for a couple of years kind of thing,
Wow.
So it was just a different thing.
Yeah.
Whereas like I toiled for 5 years to get my shodan in the Okinawan karate here, under Mike Klein. So that was the normal path, but you've got like 9 Q levels too. Yeah. So it's a lot different,
Definitely. So then you fast forward, you decide to move back to the US. And did you already have it in your mind you were going to be opening a school before you came back?
Yeah, I did. I did. At that point, I was like, I want to keep doing this. When I passed my fourth dan test, my father-in-law actually had a sword commissioned for me through no Jodo.
Wow.
So I have a Smith-made Tamahagane, Shinken sharp blade that was made for me. So that's kind of neat. So yeah, I talked to my sensei. It's kind of funny. I'm like trying to think of cool names for dojos, right? Like, you see all these different names that are trying to tie philosophical concepts or whatever into the name, right? Or like fighting school, or when you do like little translations into things, and so I came to him with like a few different ones and that I had written out in kanji and things that like I was just kind of thinking out, what could I name this thing? And he's like, well, where are you going to be? And I'm like, well, I'm going to be in Moorhead, Minnesota. He's like, and what are you going to teach? Well, I'm going to teach Iaido, Seite Iaido, or Muso Shininryu. So he said, why don't you just call it, Muso Shininryu Iaido Moorhead? I was like, okay. Like, I had all these cool names that I'd written down, with different kanji and stuff. And he's like, where are you going to be and what are you going to teach? And like, okay. So that's what I named it. It was like Muso Shininryu Iaido Moorhead Dojo.
Nice.
Like, okay.
And when you first opened, you were sharing the space with Mike, right? It wasn't that old
Yep.
like a school building or something, if I remember.
Yeah, he had an old school building in Moorhead next to the river over there. And I had already actually built my own website and put it up while I was still living in Japan. Like, we're going to be opening up in, whatever month it was. And
wow. I
had built out the website and kind of started promoting it and different things and trying to get, interest, at least from a virtual perspective and all that. So, but that was actually my third website at that time, because I was also doing like bridal photography while I was in Japan. So I made a website for that too.
Okay. Nice.
But so it was something that he was really generous. Like I had it Wednesday nights instead of just his normal class nights. So we didn't conflict, but it was nice because he gave me a really huge break on the space, costs and stuff and that. And it was a pretty nice space, but it has those padded floor mats, which are really not good for doing Iaido on.
Yeah.
I shredded a couple of hakamas on those floors over the years.
Nice.
Just because you can't slide on the rubber mats, so.
How long did it take to catch on? I mean, with it definitely being a new martial art in the Fargo Moorhead area, how long did that take before people found you and noticed you?
So you're making the assumption that it's actually catched on now. Yeah, I mean, so we opened in I guess it was 2008 probably.
Okay.
And, I've been teaching since then, and the most I've ever had in the door at one single time is like 10 people, maybe 12.
Oh, wow.
And we're not even close to that right now. Like we're less than that.
Okay.
So
now,
every single person who walks the door is like, I didn't know there was a sword school here. I've been living in Fargo, and I found you guys on the internet. I'm like, what do you mean? We've been doing demos like 2 or 3 times a year all over town at these different conventions and events. And I've had a website up since like 2007. Like, what do you mean you didn't know that we were here? I mean, if you do search results, I'm like at the top. So you must not have been looking very hard, kind of thing. But it's just funny.
Yeah. When did you decide to move and open your own dedicated space that you have now?
Well, when we could afford it.
Okay.
But, we were always looking for some place, but there was just nothing available in the measly money that I could pay. And,
right.
So we were lucky enough to like kind of go through the Fargo parks for a while there.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of bounced around a couple different places, and we found a dance cheer school that we were with for a few years. We partnered with them until they lost their lease. And that was probably the best match because they had a nice tiled floor, and it was fairly cheap. And we could get in there and kind of keep some stuff in there a little bit and that. They ended up actually giving us their laminate flooring when they left because they were just going to throw it out. And I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. So
that's cool.
So we kept that. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a challenge. The school doesn't support itself. Like It's just with what we pay for rent and what comes in for tuition is not a match. So, and it hasn't ever been a match.
Yeah.
So
I get that.
Yeah, I don't get anything out of it financially at all.
I mean, you're doing it because you love it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, like I said, I talked to the karate guys last weekend when they had their seminar here in town and had dinner with a lot of them. And it's not an uncommon thing.
Yeah.
You get the big black belt factories, like some of the Taekwondo schools in town that have after school programs and stuff that make promises, you'll have a black belt within X amount of time. Yeah. And those places, they're obviously like rolling in the cash because that's what they sell. Right. Yeah. And if you have an after school program, that's probably the way to go. But what's interesting is, so we started with EI, and it's a pretty niche thing. Like, I had these grand illusions of like, well, nobody else does a sword. Swords are awesome. How could it not work? How could it not become a thing? Mm-hmm. And it really is a niche. Like if you go to an Iaido competition or a test, you'll fall asleep because it's like there's no sound, like except for the sword swinging, like you hear kind of that whistle, but there's no ki, nothing. So, I mean, it could be considered kind of boring if you're not into it, right? And it's definitely not a kid thing. Like I had some kids try it, but they're more into the Kendo. And so we started Kendo 3 years ago now.
Okay.
Brought it back. I was interested in doing it. And one of my most senior student also had done Kendo at NDSU. He was part of a club there. He's like, we should do Kendo. I'm like, yeah, I could probably do that. And I don't feel like I'm injured now. And I'm doing chiropractic and all this stuff. And so started up Kendo again. And we've got a mentor out of Minneapolis who is I think he's a 5th or a 6th dan. I think he's a 6th dan. And he comes up and mentors us, and then we go down there once in a while too. And so we have a dedicated sensei for that. But Kendo is where the kids are, and the kids like it. And it's fun. It really is just fun. But like right now, I've got like 3 teenagers in my class. Okay. So it's kind of, summer is a little hard because everybody's got pool and other things going on. Yeah. But I think, Kendo is, and I saw kids doing Kendo, like, I don't know, 5 years old, 4 years old in Japan, like
Mm-hmm.
tiny little people in armor beating on each other with sticks, and it was just fun. I mean, it was fun to watch too, but yeah.
Wow.
So Kendo is definitely where it's at.
Have you ever taken your group down? I just interviewed a guy a couple of weeks ago from Sioux Falls who does the new thing just the last couple of years, this tourney of blades. It's a whole tournament
I saw an
focused on
ad for that the other day, and I was like, "What is that?" So
Yeah.
no, I haven't been down there. I know there was a guy who reached out at one time because he was doing the Korean version of Kendo,
Kumdo,
and then also Kumdo, and then he was also doing like Kumbup or whatever the Yai version
Mm-hmm.
as well, I think, or something. And so he had kind of like, hey, can we connect and da-da-da-da. And we never got together, but he was also getting mentorship from one of the guys that I know down in Omaha too, who did both Kendo and Yai. And we're actually both part of the same Muso Shinunyu family now too.
Nice.
And so he was kind of mentoring that guy, but I don't know what happened to him. I haven't heard from him for probably over a couple of years now.
I interviewed the guy who runs that tourney of blades, and it sounds like it's kind of cool. I'm tempted to go down and watch. It's on July 11th this year, so I might drive down just to watch.
And is it like Kendo matches, or is it something else like SCC?
It's got fencing. It's got, looks like it has Olympic style foil and epee, Hema longsword, sword and buckler, open blades division, Kendo, and padded fencing.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it does have Kendo.
That's quite a bracket. Especially you only have like one or two people in each thing, right? Like, because I'm not going to beat on somebody with a European sword.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get beat on by them either.
No, definitely. And as I said, it's new. It's only been going for like, I think this will be the third year. So I'll send you the link to the tournament and check it out.
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool to see what that's about.
Okay. So, and you mentioned like doing demonstrations and stuff. Have you ever reached out to like the local media to try to get a little more exposure that way and do a story on you? They're always looking for ideas and stuff like that, I know.
Yeah, we've actually had some people reach out to me. We had an article in the forum a couple of years ago,
nice.
A year ago, 2 years ago. We had, there's a magazine in town that kind of focuses on different men in the community, and they did an article on me.
That's right. I remember that one. Yeah, that was a good article.
That was fun. They did a lot of really neat photography with that, and yeah, it was cool.
Okay, very cool.
But yeah, a little bit, I guess.
Okay. So think back to when Mike Klein first asked you to help be an assistant instructor to now, after all these years, you've been running your own school for almost 20 years. What do you think has changed the most about your teaching style over all that time?
Well, in teaching karate, that was it's different because you didn't have the playbook, right? Like to rank test in Iaido, you gotta do Seitei Iai, which is standard Iaido, and there's 12 patterns for that, and there's a book, and there's grading points, and very specific, for that. So when you're doing that, you have to hit the grading points, and there's very specific ways about doing all the stuff, right? And so that doing Iaido is making your body do things it doesn't want to do.
Okay.
Sitting in Seiza is not natural. Having your feet pointing straight forward is not natural. There's a lot of things that just aren't natural about the posture, aren't natural about the movements, all of that stuff. So you're making your body do things that aren't necessarily natural to do that. And so karate is like, the kata are very specific. You do have to do it a certain way, but there's a little interpretation in some of it. And so I guess the biggest thing that's changed in my philosophy over the last period of time is probably just, how do I teach you? How do I teach you how to do the stuff that you need to do so that you can figure it out and get to that next step? Because how you do it is maybe not how Joe does it, or how you learn is maybe not how Steve learns. Yeah. And so making it comprehensible so that you can figure it out and make your body do the things you need to do. And so, I talked to Mike, my most senior student. We're always talking about like, how do we reach this student? Because that person doesn't seem to be able to connect the dots as quickly as somebody else can, or what is it that makes them, how do they learn? Are they visual? Are they need to, be able to read it? You have to move their body to do the right thing, because when you say, hey, make sure your feet are straight, they're not getting it. They might think their feet are straight, but they're not, or whatever that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is it like, how does that person learn? And no two people really learn the same. So I guess that's the answer to the question is, how do I help that person learn that next thing and then master that so that I can bring them the next thing,
Okay.
And it's challenging because I started out with like, well, here's what a beginner does, and here's how we're going to teach this program, and these are the steps you go through, and da 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 da, and teaching how I learned myself. And I learned over the years that not everybody learns like I learned, or has the same learning style. So
yeah,
you have to be a little more flexible in that.
Okay. So over your martial arts journey, worst martial arts related injury, have you had any bad ones?
Yeah, I tore my calf.
Ow.
Pretty bad.
Dang.
And in Kendo, because you're pushing with your back left leg or your back leg. Yeah, I have front and back legs. No, you're pushing with your left, and so pretty highly because you're kind of leaping. And if you don't stretch or you're an old fart like I am, it's easier to get injured, right? So, I tore my calf a couple years ago, and that took a few months to get over. So that was painful.
Yeah, definitely.
I've also had a bicep tendon that needed to be cut, which is irritated by some of the chiburdi that you do. If you don't, it's kind of like tennis elbow, but it was in my shoulder.
Okay.
And so that also was an injury that I had. I don't know if it was related to the EI or if it was just irritated by the EI, but the calf was definitely a kendo related injury.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a little earlier, you mentioned, philosophy a little bit. So over your whole martial arts career, is there one philosophy that's at the top of your list? It's just super important.
Well, I think it's the respect, like our youth and adults too these days are really into devices. There seems to be a lot more attitude, entitlement, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, familiarity. And even in my own school, we're like a dojo family, which is a good thing. We're friends outside of the dojo. We do social events. We go out afterwards and have food and drink and stuff like that. So, there's that community of the dojo, but that also brings some familiarity. And I know that sometimes the way that my students address or treat me, I would never even dream of treating Takeda Sensei that way.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like a reverence that I had for him because of his kindness towards me. He had an aura about him that you could just tell, like he has this ability that you're just like, oh my God, and it's subtle, but when you look for it, you can see it, and now our sensei in Japan, because Takeda Sensei passed away a few years ago, and so I was orphaned, and I was fortunate to meet Kazuhisa Kaneda Sensei, who's actually a direct line descendant of Nakayama Hakudo, who's the founder of Muso Shininryu. Oh. And so we're now part of his family, which is a huge, huge thing. And so when I see Kaneda Sensei do Muso Shininryu, and then I see how I do Muso Shininryu, I'm just like in awe because he makes it look like butter. I mean, he's just like so good at it. He's just like Kaneda Sensei in that like he is super nice, he is super friendly, so kind, and he doesn't demand respect. He doesn't get angry when, you don't do things right or whatever. He doesn't have some of the attitude that I've seen in some of the other high-ranking sensei in different arts. But I respect him so much. And it's not just because of the abilities that he has, it's because of the person that he is. And so that's what I want to be. And
nice.
It's hard.
Yeah.
If you're not born Japanese or, grow up in that traditional Japanese culture and the eishiki and the etiquette that kind of is woven into their society from that age group, it's kind of hard to even understand it, I think.
Yeah.
But
that's cool.
That, I guess, is the value that I would hope that I could either achieve and attain, but then also bring my students to try to understand.
Okay. All right. So, decades in mostly traditional martial arts, you did some competition and stuff in like Taekwondo, but so what are your thoughts on something like the UFC MMA? Is that something you're a fan of? Do you watch it?
Oh man, that is a hard thing. Like, I mean, it's interesting because you see these guys that can just wrap people up, like with the jujitsu,
Mm-hmm.
background, and then you see the boxing side of it too, and the Thai kickboxing side of it too, and it's just like, wow, those people are athletes, and
Yep.
and that's a whole different. That's like street fighting in a cage, right? So, I mean, it's kind of with some rules attached to it, But
Yeah.
I mean, I would never want to do that. I actually met a Bob Sapp, if you never knew who that was.
Yeah.
He used to be a Minnesota Viking, right?
Yep. Wow.
I met him in Japan. He was training in Japan to fight in Japan, and he got his butt kicked by the first guy he fought. But it was fun because I met him.
That's cool.
But yeah, I mean, it's just it's a different animal.
Yeah.
I like watching it, but man,
Okay.
it's like painful to watch sometimes because it's like, oh man, they're just killing each other in there.
Yep. Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, Bob Sapp was over there fighting in Pride.
Yeah, I think that was the Japanese version of it. Yeah, it wasn't UFC, it was Pride.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yep. Yeah. UFC ended up buying them and putting them out of business, which is sad because Pride actually, in my opinion, put on better events.
Yeah, I went to a few of those when I was in Japan, actually, because
Wow.
my wife was kind of into it too, and so we'd go and watch it once in a while. But yeah, it was fun to watch.
Nice.
Different seeing the size, right? Because there are some Japanese guys that are big and strong, but not as many,
Right.
just from a body size. So, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool.
All right. So I have a few fun questions we use to wrap up the interview.
Sure.
We were just talking about MMA. I know you said you'd never do it, but let's just say you decided you were going to do it. You were going to get into the UFC and take that walk into the octagon. What is your walk-up song going to be? What music's playing as you're taking that walk into the cage?
You definitely got to be Eye of the Tiger, man. I saw Rocky when I was a kid.
Nice.
Come on.
Hey, you're not the first one to pick Eye of the Tiger. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, mine is You're the Best from the Karate Kid. So.
Oh yeah, that's probably another one. Yep.
There we go. Nice.
True.
All right. Who are 3, 4, 5 names you'd put on your personal Mount Rushmore of martial arts?
Well, I mean, I'm going to say my own senseis for that, but
Definitely.
Taika Waititi, definitely. I mean, talk about, he was the founder of the Ryukyu karate or the Ryutei karate or whatever you want to call it now, the one that Mike Klein and Kevin Toboso are teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Just an amazing technician, and I just watched him. I remember going to seminars with him and just amazed by him and learning under him. And then, my sensei, Kaneda sensei too, even though he only ever got to be a 7th dan, which is still pretty high in Japan since there's only 8 dan total, but he was a Kendo and an Iaido guy, both 7th dan in each of those. And just the kindness of him and the way that he taught, I think I would put him on that. And then Kaneda sensei too, another new sensei probably.
Okay.
Just from, jeepers. He's 4th down from Nakayama Hakudo. So,
Okay.
So that makes us 5th.
There you go.
Which is pretty cool,
Yeah.
And then, there's a lot of 5ths. Believe me, there's like he's got a lot of schools under him, but we're still in that tier. I don't know. The 4th one, I guess. I haven't studied anything outside of karate and the sword arts, so I don't really have
I've had people
who just stands out to me.
Yeah, I've had people give as few as 2 names. So if you want to stop at 3, that's all good.
I'll just keep those senseis there. Yeah, I think the 3 that I sensei. Oh, Mike Klein too. Yeah, Mike Klein, obviously.
There we go. I like it.
Yeah, there's my 4th rounded out one. So
nice. How about a favorite martial arts book?
So there are obviously like the 5 Rings is an interesting read.
Mm-hmm.
But what do I have over here in my bookshelf? Kaneda Sensei actually put out a magazine style book in Japan. The problem is it's only in Japanese.
Okay.
It's really hard. Like I have to use Google Translate because my reading is not as great as my speaking.
Okay.
So that was pretty good. But there was a book that was called Bushido, the Soul of Japan, which I thought was kind of interesting. There's also another one called The Unfettered Mind, I thought, which was kind of interesting. So out of those, I know that wasn't a single book, but those were some that I remember reading or looking at over the years.
All right, some good ones. Now, this one you may or may not have an answer for, but you are a kid of the 70s and 80s, so maybe. Do you have a favorite martial arts video game? Did you ever get into gaming?
Yeah, I still do gaming once in a while.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, I know there's a lot.
Yeah.
I personally haven't played a martial arts video game since probably like 93. So
I can't even remember which ones there were. Like, I mean,
you got Mortal Kombat, you got Street Fighter, you
yeah,
got Tekken. Those are the
all
big ones.
console ones though, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I never had an Atari or a Nintendo or any of those things. And, you know, so I never got good at those. Like, I'm not good at using two hands to manipulate joysticks and thumbsticks or whatever you call them. So I wasn't very good at that, but probably Mortal Kombat I would have to say, because I did do that one a little bit.
All right.
So
how about a favorite martial arts TV show?
Oh, let's see, martial arts TV show. Well, I'm going to say the Shogun miniseries. I think
that was so good. The original or the new one?
I read the book. Well, I read the book and you know, at least twice.
Nice.
And then I saw the original miniseries with Richard Chamberlain, and I really liked that. And that was several years ago. And then when the new miniseries came out, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I rewatched the original Richard Chamberlain one, and then I power watched the entire second new series. And so, like, I mean, I was living and breathing Shogun for like, you know, almost a month solid there.
That's awesome.
And I really liked that. I think even though they're distinctly different in the story between the two miniseries, they're both put them both together and they come pretty close to the book. So
I like it. Okay, and supposedly they're doing a season 2 of the new one. So
I've heard that too. Yeah, I'm kind of wondering where that'll go though, because there wasn't a book that really dealt with the same characters. So
interesting. Yeah, I guess we'll have to see.
Isn't it based off of like Nobunaga?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe they'll continue down that path. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Yeah. How about a favorite martial arts movie?
People are gonna laugh because like I did like The Last Samurai. I thought that was actually.
I thought that's one of Tom Cruise's best. That one and Collateral are his two best movies, acting wise. Yeah. So I love The Last Samurai.
Yeah, I liked it because there wasn't a part in there. There was a small section of Iaido in there, and the draw that you see the samurai do, where he knocks the guy's head off when he's walking down the street. Like that's a legit draw for Iaido.
That's cool.
But there was another one too. 13 Assassins was another one that I really liked. Yeah, that one was kind of neat too.
Okay. All right. Final question. Now, this one doesn't have to be a martial arts movie. Any movie you've seen in your whole life, a favorite movie fight scene?
Oh, man. You know, the John Wick ones come to mind just because, you know, I mean, even though it's all gun related, it's like, oh, we watched. Okay. So we have these Jeopardy, we call it Samurai Movie Night. We'll have it at the dojo about every month and a half or so, where we just have a potluck and then we show bad samurai movies.
That's awesome.
And sometimes good samurai movies too, but like we'll just sit and eat and drink and watch movies, right?
That's cool.
And there's this one, I can't remember what it's called now, but it was like the whole movie is a continuous fight scene with one guy fighting like 150 dudes over time. Yeah. And so, and I can't remember what it's called, but like by the end of the movie, like you're just like, oh my God, how is this guy even still walking? You know? And because it's constant, and then we started like trying to figure out like, hey, did I see that guy in the lab? Like, did he die twice before? Like, how many times are we recycling these guys? You know, and they just kind of like go off screen and then they come back around, change clothes, and come back on again. You know,
wow.
Because it was just this continuous fight. But I can't remember what it was, but I thought it was like, I think it actually has a number in the title too. And I sorry, I don't remember, but that was like. It wasn't just slash. Like there were some legit like moves in there, and that was pretty cool. But after a while, we're just like, oh my God, how much longer is this going to go on? Because he's just fighting the whole time.
That's cool. You have to, if you think of it, let me know because I definitely want to check
I'll
it out.
I'll have to ask. I'm sure one of my students will remember it. I just can't remember it.
Nice. Well, before I let you go, Bradley, is there anything that I forgot to ask you, or just last minute, parting words you want to get out there before we wrap it up?
Well, one of the other things that we do is Jodo, which is sword against stick. And that also is really, really cool. So, because it puts the person in the room. And so I like to think of like when you do Jodo, which is, sword against stick, and you do Kendo, you've got people that you're actually reacting to. You're learning timing and distance and all that stuff. And you tie that together with Iaido, and it's like the perfect trifecta of martial arts related to the sword. So I guess I would just encourage people to, like, if you're interested in any martial arts, check out, see what it is, go visit a class, no matter what dojo it is, if it's mine or somebody else's, and see if it's a good fit for you. And, let's all be better people and use martial arts that way instead of just learning how to fight each other. I guess that would be my final thing.
I like it. Seriously, man, this has been, I'm so glad. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I'm glad we finally did. I love your story, and I think the listeners will enjoy this too, but I truly appreciate your time, and I've enjoyed this.
Yeah, thanks. It was nice to have the opportunity to talk with you too. So I'm glad we could finally make it happen.
Wrap up today's episode by taking your own training to the next level with Martial Theory by Steve Perlman, the book that's redefining martial arts thinking. Find Martial Theory on Amazon today. Join the worldwide movement at martialtheoryu.com, where you'll find Q&A sessions, live events, and direct guidance from Steve himself. Use code EverydayMA for 20% off for life. That's martialtheoryu.com, code EverydayMA. Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.